All right, this lesson should be quick and simple. We're still doing distributed property, and we're working with GCF, so it's two things that are not new. We're just kind of combining them together into one lesson. Typically, these types of questions are not worded as, hey, factor out the GCF and find the answer. They are usually a multiple choice question. They'll give you an expression, and it'll say which of the following expressions is equivalent. Okay, so you have to know how to do the distributed property to get the original problem that they gave you. Okay, it'll make more sense when I write it out in a second, but that's pretty much the gist of this concept. So I don't really have any notes to take. We're just going to look at some examples, and hopefully you'll be able to figure out what exactly is going on. So here's what I mean they'll do. They'll give you a problem like this, 20y plus 30, all right? And they'll say, find the equivalent expression listed below. Now, some of the ones they give you aren't going to make any sense at all. For example, if they gave you, let's see if I can get a pen. If they gave you 5 2y plus 4, okay? And what they're asking you to do is they're asking you to do the distributive property to see if it gives you this problem right here. So if I do the distributive property, all right, 5 times 2y is 10y, and then 5 times 4 is 20. Is this equivalent to this? And hopefully you're saying absolutely no. So this would be incorrect. So we're going to put, I'll just write it off to the side. Wrong. Okay, that's not how you do this. All right, what you're supposed to do is you're going to take the numbers they give you, so 20 and 30, all right? And we're going to find the GCF, all right? Remember, GCF, we do upside down birthday cake. So if I take, let's see, 20 and 30. All right, and remember, you're trying to figure out what numbers or what number can go into both of these numbers. Now remember, the bigger the number you pick, the less steps you have to do. So I'm going to start with 10. How many times does 10 go into 20? It goes into it 2 times. How many times 10 go into 30? Goes into it 3 times. And the only thing that goes into 2 and 3 is 1. Now remember, when you're doing GCF, you just do what's on the side. Okay? And remember, you multiply those numbers. So what is 10 times 1? Well, 10 times 1 is obviously 10. So that tells me that my number that's on the outside has to be a 10. I'll do it down here. Okay? So now we just have to figure out, okay, 10's on the outside, so what has to go on the inside? So in other words, what times 10 is going to give me these two numbers up here, okay? So what times 10 is going to give me 20y? Hopefully you're saying to yourself, 2y. All right, and then you should be asking yourself, what times 10 is going to give me this 30? Well, what times 10 gives me 30? Well, that has to be 3. And that's your final answer. This would be what they want to know. When they say, what is an equivalent expression? This is the answer they're looking for. All right, so all we had to do was find the GCF. Once you have the GCF, that's the number that has to go on the outside, okay? And then you just figure out what goes on the inside. Now, what's really nice is if you actually take the time to do the birthday cake, which some of you won't because I know that you like to do it in your head, but here's the benefit of doing the birthday cake. Not only does it give you the GCF, so it gives you what number goes out here, but if you look right here, it gives you the numbers that have to go inside the parentheses as well. It gave me my 2 and my 3. That's not a coincidence. That's how it works. Okay? So the only thing that you need to remember is put the variable if it has a variable, and then put whatever sign goes with it. So like I had to remember to put the y with this, and I had to remember to put the plus sign right here. Now here's what they might do. What if they gave you this? What if they said that this was an answer choice? 5, 4y plus 6. Well, let's do the distributive property and see if it works out. So if I do 5 times 4y 5 times 4y is 20y. And then 5 times 6 is 30. This matches this. So why is this not the answer? Well, this is not the answer because it wants you to factor out the GCF. You have to find the GCF. Now, if the question's really vague and it says, just find the equivalent expressions, then yes, this would be right. But it wants you to factor out the GCF, so 10 has to be the one that's on the outside. So that's why this right here would be the right answer. They're going to make it very clear as to which one they want, whether they want this one with the GCF or whether they'll take anything, okay? Hopefully you can see, though, that this matches this, whereas when we did it this way, this right here does not match this at all, okay? I know there's a lot going on right here, so hopefully you were following that. But if it specifically wants to know the GCF, it has to be this one. If it'll take anything, then you could have done this one as well. You also could have done a 2. There's lots of different possible answers, but 99% of the time, it wants you to find that GCF, okay? Let's look at another one. Hope I'm not overwhelming you. We're only going to do about 3, so don't worry. We're almost finished. If I give you 28 plus 14g, and remember, it's going to say find the equivalent expression. We have to find that GCF. So what is the GCF of 28 and 14? Okay, what goes into both of those? All right, well, you can start easy. If you're not sure, start easy. So 2. 28 divided by 2 is 14. 2 goes into 14 7 times. What goes into 14 and 7? 7 does. So that's a 2 and a 1. So now I'm looking right here, and that tells me my GCF. 2 times 7 times 1 is 14. So that tells me my GCF has to be 14. So 14 has to be the number that goes out here. Go ahead and put your plus sign in here because you know it has to be a plus. Now remember, you can figure it out. So you can say to yourself, okay, what times 14 is going to give me 28? And then what times 14 is going to give me 14g? Or you can look over here. Remember, it tells you what needs to go in those spots. You're going to put it in the order that you have it. So I know that 2 has to go in this spot. And 1 goes here. Now you don't write 1g. We don't put 1s in front of the variable. Like if it's a 1, you just write it as g. If you put a 1, I wouldn't count it wrong, but you're not going to see it like that on a test. So let's just double check. 14 times 2 is 28. 14 times g is 14g. So this does match up. Okay? All right. Let's see. One more. We've got 10w plus 25y. All right. Remember, your first step is to figure out the GCF of the two numbers they give you. All right, so I got to find the GCF of 10 and 25. Okay, well, what goes into 10 and 25? That would be 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 25 divided by 5 is 5. That's a 1. So my GCF on the outside has to be a 5. So 5 has to go out here. It's a plus sign, so I'm going to write my plus so I don't forget it. I'm going to look over here. 2 goes here. 5 goes here. But remember, you cannot forget your variables. So let's go back and look. This one's a W. This one's a Y. Now let's just double check our work to make sure that we are correct. So 5 times 2W is 10W. 5 times 5Y is 5W. So that is correct. Here's one that I wanted to show you. Let's see if I can pull this up. So look at this one. This is from my last year's notebook, so I was just going to let you look at it. Sorry about the marker coming through on the other page. Here's the problem they've given you, and they're going to say, factor out the GCF to find the equivalent expression. Now, what's not nice about these is that all of these, except this one is completely wrong, but A, B, and C all give you this exact same thing right here. So, for example, what I mean is 2 times 12W is 24W. 2 times 8Y is 16Y. 4 times 6W is 24W. 4 times 4y is 16y. 8 times 3, 24w. 8 times 2y, 16y. So A, B, and C all give you the exact same thing, which is what they're looking for. But remember, you have to find the GCF. So in other words, you need to figure out what is my GCF of 24 and 16, and that's the number that has to go on the outside. So if you took the time to actually figure out the GCF of 24 and 16, you would know that 8 is the GCF, so 8 is the one that has to go on the outside, so C has to be the right answer. So be careful with those, okay? If it's one that just says, find all the equivalent expressions, then you would have put A, B, and C, because all of them work out. But if it said factor out the GCF to find the equivalent expression, it would have to be C, because that's the only one that actually has the GCF on the outside. Okay, so we're going to spend today practicing this, and hopefully you'll get it down pat.